Hello and welcome to my second part of the Interruption to Contact video, and as a reminder I've put up the cycle of Gestalt formation and destruction with diagrammatic examples of boundary disturbances at each stage. As you can see on the outside of the diagram, we have the cycle of awareness, feeling a sensation and into awareness, moving into mobilization and into action, feeling full and final contact, resulting in satisfaction, and finally withdrawal. On the inside, along with the diagrams, we have the interruptions to contact, and in the first video I discussed desensitization, deflection, introjection, and now I'll be discussing projection, retroflection, egotism, and confluence. So here we have projection, and Korb says to deny experience, to distort a part of oneself, believing it resides in someone else. As I said previously, interruptions to contact are neither positive or negative. They can be either or both. And we need projection to empathise and sympathise with others. However, to ignore what's ours and project it onto another allows ourselves to live in denial of who we are. The next interruption to contact is retroflection. This is purely a Gestalt term and is not found in any other therapeutic modality. In direct contrast to disowning what is ours when we project, when we retroflect, we do to ourselves rather than to the other. This can mean if we do not allow the free and full emotion we are feeling in the moment to be known. It can be useful during a professional meeting to hold back tears. However, to never allow oneself to cry is retroflection. Remember, as I discussed in the first video, by using an interruption to contact in a context that is helpful and healthy for the individual, cannot be seen as a negative thing. However, it is when a habit is formed, when there is a situation that occurs time and time again, to continually hold back tears, to never allow oneself to cry, is retroflection. And retroflections can lead to bodily tensions and possibly psychosomatic symptoms and or self-harm, such as biting one's lip rather than say what you know. There's a second type of retroflection, and that's to do to the other what you want for yourself, what you want the other to do. For example, asking for someone else if they want a hug when you need comforting is an example of this second type of retroflection. And here we have egotism. Joyce and Sills describe it as egotism as a habitual modification is characterized by an excessive preoccupation with one's own thoughts, feelings, behaviours and effect on others. Clarkson says, blocking spontaneity by control. Egotism is when someone stands outside of himself and their environment as though they were a spectator. Satisfaction is not appreciated or even experienced, as there will be an observing of the self, and the concentration will be on the self rather than what is being offered or received. And finally, we have confluence. Confluence is the absence of the differentiation between the self and the other, a surrender to the sameness. Of course, there is a value in seeing the sameness in yourself and others. For example, at school, a team, a country, they all become unified in the acceptance of that sameness. However, if the self is so immersed, so entrenched in the other, that the I is lost, there is no sense of self. The feeling that without the other they cannot survive is confluence. It's often noted confluence is present when a speech is dominated by we, or the other is brought into the conversation when asked about the self. Here are the authors that I've referenced throughout these previous two videos. I hope you've enjoyed them. Thank you.